Well, moving on to other news now, in the United States and China have opened a pivotal round of two-day-long high-level trade talks. The talks are aimed at digging out from their months-long trade war amid deep differences over China's practices on influential property and technology transfer, intellectual property and technology transfer. At the head of the 30-person delegation from Beijing, Chinese Vice Premier met with the U.S. Trade Representative as well. The talks began 2 days after the United States charged the Chinese telecommunications company Huawei and its chief financial officer Meng Wanzhou. U.S. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin expressed optimism, saying that significant progress can be achieved during this week's high-level trade negotiations in Washington. The two sides have just a month remaining in the 90-day truce declared in December. Should the talks fail, U.S. import duties on $200 billion in Chinese imports are due to more than double on March 2nd, something economists say would help knock the wind out of the global economy's sails.
Very important to Jean-Claude and Donald, all of them, that they're going to be coming to the White House.
And well, we are joined by Patrick Falk, correspondent from Beijing. And Patrick, what were the reactions on the trade discussions from the Chinese side at the briefing earlier today?
Well, reporters, as you can imagine, were very keen to get updates on the trade talks, but when asked for details and what the government's expectations were for coming out of them, spokesperson for the Ministry of Commerce, Gao Feng, simply said he had no information at this time. Now, he was also asked about this issue of IP protection, which we know is a key concern for the Americans in these discussions. He said that China had done a remarkable amount over the last year to strengthen legislation in that regard, and also said that a judicial framework had been set up to crack down on illegal activity related to IP protection. Now, he also spoke about a significant development that's taken place here in the last couple of days. The National People's Congress Standing Committee has just finalized new legislative proposals to streamline foreign investments. They're essentially aimed at leveling the playing field for foreign companies so that they're treated in the same way that Chinese companies are here, and they also have provisions in them for IP protection. Analysts say it's significant not just because of the timing, but also because of the speed at which these proposals have been pushed through, and perhaps it's likely that negotiators in Washington will be pointing towards these efforts in their discussions.
Right. And so what's the feeling in China about whether there will actually be any progress made in the round of talks? We know the U.S. has said that the talks were positive.
Well, there is a lot of skepticism about what these talks can achieve exactly, given both sides simply don't see eye to eye on certain issues. But media here is reporting that there is a lot of optimism as well, that at least some progress will be made. The Global Times had an article saying the fact that Liu He travelled to Washington so close to the Spring Festival holidays was a positive sign and showed that China was sincere about trying to achieve some sort of breakthrough. At the same time, the same article said that there were dark clouds hanging over these talks and pointed in particular towards the US indictments against Huawei. And in a separate article in the Global Times, it also talked about economic figures that were recently released by the Ministry of Commerce, saying that outbound investment from China to North America, notably Canada as well as the US, had fallen by as much as 70% in the last year, and it suggested that the US would suffer if this trade war continues, and that outbound investments from China would continue to grow, but perhaps the business will be taken elsewhere.
All right, Patrick, thanks very much indeed for joining us.